During testing, these aluminum plates simulate the density of an EV battery shell. The BEST system actually punctures the shell, allowing gallons of water to rush in and put out the fire. But you don't have to take my word for it. This nasty sewage backflow mess has been sitting in the driveway of these Phoenix apartments for days. That's right, Christine. Again, here in the valley, we've kind of avoided the worst case scenario so far, but we've talked to emergency service directors and the Red Cross to talk about how they are preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. A pursuit topping 90 miles an hour here on the northbound Loop 101 led to a pit maneuver, turning that suspect car around, headed right towards oncoming traffic. Hundreds of people showed up Sunday to Oceanside Ice Arena for what will be its final skate. And Republican lawmakers have called on the president to take a trip to the southern border when he visits states like Arizona. So far, though, the White House says they have no plans for President Biden to visit the border tomorrow. When you're just walking around your house, you may not pay much attention to your baseboards or door frames, but if you're not careful, termites can do some serious damage. So if you notice some soft spots, you better call it pest control. Turf Paradise has stood in this spot off Bell Road for nearly 7 decades, and the proposed commercial and residential space coming in to replace it leaves some fans longing for more. The Maricopa Unified School District, the first district in Pinal County impacted by that ransomware attack to be able to pick up their paychecks. Employees able to pick up their checks here Friday night.
I always took it for granted that it was just going to be a steady thing. So this is kind of a shock to everybody's system.
Pinal County Schools had planned to print physical copies of checks for 4,514 employees, but printer issues slowed things down, delaying the timeline for some districts.
There's always just a new glitch that comes up and a new problem that comes up, and so they've got to fix it kind of on the fly, which just kind of has delayed our paychecks coming out.
This following a ransomware attack this past weekend impacting all public districts in the county. The Florence Unified School District thought they'd have checks ready by 2 p.m. Friday, but when employees showed up, they were met with bad news.
They've been pretty supportive and understanding, and they're frustrated and we're frustrated. We all want to get paid this week and be able to go about our lives and pay rent and all of that and buy groceries, and so it's nerve-wracking and frustrating.
Eventually, it became clear the checks wouldn't be ready Friday night.
Yep, send everybody home.
It's been a tough week for administrators across the county.
We felt completely helpless. Rent and mortgages are due, child care payments, everything comes due on the first of the month. Plus, we're in the middle of a 2-week fall break.
I got rent due myself this Sunday, and nothing comes through. I got to call my landlord, tell him we're going to be delayed.
In Maricopa, employees able to get checks, appreciative of the all-hands-on-deck effort to hand them out.
That's it, man. They've been working all day. I want to give them a break, give them a payday. I appreciate all the work they did for us to make this happen today.
Right down the road in Casa Grande, employees able to get their checks, too. A long week, and in some places, at least, some resolution.
Today is payday, right? So everybody got their check on payday.
Pinal County Superintendent telling us that the printing work is continuing tonight to make sure checks can get out the doors to all impacted districts as soon as possible. In Maricopa, Fort Hatchett, ABC 15, Arizona. Well, as I'm sure you know, Javier, it was a pretty emotional day for everybody involved to see. You mentioned demolition crews come through here. You were here yesterday, we were here this morning, and these sidewalks were covered. So to see them empty now, less than 12 hours later after this cleanup got started is pretty striking. And for folks that used to live right here and in the surrounding blocks, I think the question as to what comes next is still a big unknown. This block of 9th Avenue, the beginning of a court-mandated zone cleanup.
I was here when they started at like 5:30.
Timothy Olney says he's lived here for 17 months. His space now bulldozed away. What are the emotions that you feel when you see all this, when you see this cleanup happen?
Oh, infuriation, obviously. I mean, it's natural.
A few blocks away, people understand the cleaning crews will eventually come for their spaces.
I don't know really where I'm going to go, man. So, it's going to be hard for me trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do. Yeah. But, I don't know, man. Yeah, we got to figure it out.
Mary Lou Martinez and Trisha Kelly welcomed us into their home Wednesday. They say life on the street is comfortable because people here don't judge them the way they say some observers do.
They ride by here taking pictures and videoing, and they look at us and start treating us like disgrace.
The city hasn't said which block they plan to clean next. For those living here, there's a sense of unknown, a familiar feeling that comes with the territory.
This is not the life I had planned for us. But right now, this is all we got.
Timothy has 3 dogs.
Come on, come here. Come here.
Motivation for him, but he worries his struggles reading will prevent him from finding work.
I'm ready to go work. I do whatever I gotta do to get off the streets. You know?
And when we asked the city yesterday, they said there were still about 800 people living without shelter. So while the images of today, Javi, might have been pretty jarring to see that demolition crew and bulldozers come through and clean up stuff, we're going to have to get used to that because there's still a lot of work to be done here to get more people off the street and the zone cleaned up fully to comply with that court order.
Yeah, this is day one. There's so many heartbreaking stories. And as you see that demolition crew move in and move their belongings out, it really hits home, doesn't it?
And I'll tell you, we saw even some people with their pets. We saw some of the dogs in that story there. We saw a cat that was left behind this morning. It really just kind of puts some of the humanity into it as too. And you see people having to make decisions about what they take with them.
You're exactly right. All right, great reporting. Thank you.
As you peer along Baseline Road, a lot of it looks uniform now.
So many apartments and buildings and neighborhoods.
But it didn't always look like this.
This is what Baseline used to look like. This picture was taken, we think, in the early 1960s, late 1950s.
After World War II, 7 Japanese American families settled here and began growing and selling flowers. But in the 40s and 50s, this location wasn't necessarily a first choice.
It was very rocky. The soil had to be amended in different ways. But it was one of the only places that after World War II, because of all the anti-Japanese sentiment, that they were allowed to lease land and then eventually purchase.
Kathy Nakagawa grew up around her dad's shop, Baseline Flowers.
I feel like he was always working to maintain and build the business.
The scents and color found at the flower farms became a major tourist attraction.
It was so busy during when everything was in bloom in March. There would just be cars bumper to bumper lined up along Baseline Road.
Over time, the family sold the land, new developments went up, and shops disappeared. The history dropping like cut stems.
We're the only flower shop from that era that's still here.
In the shop today, there's a history wall.
Dad had so many different people working with him.
With images and articles spanning decades. This one from 1969.
And that's me holding the flowers in the field.
Some landmarks from the pictures are still here.
This is the canal back here.
Baseline Flowers stands as a piece of history in plain sight, still serving the community and working hard to preserve its legacy.
Phoenix is so quick, I think, to lose a lot of its history. And when they drive along Baseline Road, maybe slow down a little bit and think about what it used to be like with the flower fields on both sides and the 7 Japanese American families that kept going after everything that happened during World War II.
I hear Jordan mention that normally you see that kind of transparent smoke that you can see through, and one of the things that's struck me from our vantage point is these dark clouds that continue to rise. They seem to be popping up in different locations, right? As soon as firefighters seem to get something under control at one spot, there's another spot that becomes a problem. We saw that palm tree go up in flames away from the initial fire earlier, and you're still continuing to hear those loud booms coming from this propane tank storage facility. We don't know exactly what those are, but I think everyone's mind kind of wanders and thinks about what could that be, and are there explosions? Do we need to move? Is shrapnel an issue? We're expecting an update from the fire department here very soon as they continue to surround and drown this. You're going to hear that over and over today as they get on every side of this fire and try to just come down with as much water as possible. Again, firefighters, we see them on the ladders here, still working very hard to just get water on top of this and get this under control as that smoke continues to blow. Again, this is right near Gateway Community College. There's the animal shelter that Jordan was just talking about. There are some businesses in here that, again, worry for some of those animals and other people around, and the fire department doing everything they can to keep this under control. And we're going to hopefully learn a little bit more about what exactly started this and why this is continuing to go as long as it is in these hot temperatures. It is very hot out here, and those firefighters have to continually rotate because they only have so much air in those tanks.